Okay, everyone, welcome in. This is True Sidereal Astrology for the week of August 31st to September the 7th. All right, so let's get into what's going on this week, what's happening on a collective level, possibly individual level this week. It's a big week. So we're going to go ahead and start with the undercurrent energy, which is that of the slow-moving planets. They're farther out in space compared to Earth. And so they are more unconscious in nature, and they take a really long and slow time to do what they need to do within ourselves. So, of course, the furthest away is Pluto, and he continues his journey in Capricorn, really unearthing a lot of issues around governments, issues of power and control, shadows, who's in charge, who our leaders are, and he's retrograde, and so we're reevaluating how we feel about those issues, and also collectively some of these shadowy issues and fears and issues of power and control are coming to the surface to be seen. And so Neptune and Saturn are still retrograde in Pisces for a little bit. This helps us to reevaluate and understand issues of our daily routine, which is Saturn energy. Also, maybe our job, what we're doing in our daily job, maybe it's changing or just adjusting a little bit, or maybe we need to adjust our daily routine around to make us feel a little bit better and comfortable. Of course, Neptune is there, having us really take this inward look and reevaluate our spiritual responsibilities. Perhaps some of us are even getting dreams at night that are helping us to see what we need to take responsibility for. Those could even be around Plutonian shadows and fears that we have. And Neptune comes in and represents that unseen world and says, okay, well, I'm going to give you this dream so that you can reevaluate, journal about it, however you do, in order to solve this within yourself. And sometimes what I've noticed is it takes a lot of dreams, a lot of similar dreams to be able to get that picture. And that's that slow moving energy that happens over time. And then we also have Uranus and Taurus, very long stay. And this week, Uranus is square Mercury and the Sun. So Uranus in Taurus is about finances, our self-worth, material possessions, values, even real estate. And so I know I had talked about before that changes, Uranus is all about really sudden and unexpected change. And when he does this and he makes his moves in the sign of Taurus, we can see that unexpected change within real estate, within our financial areas, and within our own self-worth, and how we are valuing ourselves as a whole, as a collective whole. And of course, once again, this energy is slow moving and will happen over time, over the course of Uranus's stay here in Taurus. And because he is square Mercury and the Sun this particular week, squares bring challenges that require different action in order to release the tension that stems from that square energy. And so in this case, we are experiencing challenges and tension around perhaps our own self-worth and how we think and speak about it to others. Perhaps our vital life force energy and who we are is being challenged by certain events that make us need to reflect around our own self-worth, our values, our finances, our home and real estate, and how we're living. So that's that subtle undercurrent energy this week. So now we're going to take a look at the sun and the moon. And in astrology, the sun represents our outermost consciousness that we are aware of. And the moon represents our inner consciousness that we are aware of. And so the sun will continue his stay in Leo. And so that helps us to really consciously think about those Leo themes, authenticity, heart-centered passion, expression, creative expression at that. Sometimes maybe romance and things like that might be, we are very well aware of that at this time. And so the moon is waxing this week. And when the moon is waxing towards her waxing gibbous phase, we're internally making adjustments right before that full moon. So this is the time not to start anything new, but to continue on the goals and readjust them a little bit. The goals you've already set in motion. And so she makes her way this week through Scorpio, Ophiuchus, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. A lot of signs there. And true sidereal, and in the sky above us, the constellation of Scorpio and Ophiuchus are quite small. And then Sagittarius and Capricorn are next. They're not as small as Scorpio and Ophiuchus, but in true sidereal, we don't have the signs in equal 30 degrees. They are equivalent as much as we can get to the size of the constellation in the sky, which is really nice. And so at the end of this week, she will transition into Aquarius, where we will have our total lunar eclipse happening in that sign of Aquarius. And we will talk about that. So, of course, this is happening on September the 7th. And she is a part of what we call Saros cycle 128. So each eclipse is a part of what we call a Saros cycle. And so these cycles, this particular cycle began in the year 1304. So, and we'll get into that here in just a second. So this total lunar eclipse won't be viewed here in America, but it can be viewed in Africa, Australia, Asia, and Europe. And so as part of Saros cycle 128 that began back in 1304, there were several different things that were going on that particular year. And then we can take a look at that year and the other years that have had eclipses within Saros cycle 128 to kind of get an idea of similar themes that may be happening and that this eclipse energy is really trying to tell us and let us know. And so, with any eclipse that we have, it is revealing information that needs to be released usually, because the word eclipse in Greek, and I think I'll get to this in a minute, hopefully I made a slide about it, but the word eclipse in Greek literally means to abandon. And so whatever is illuminated and revealed to us on this eclipse or near the eclipse energy is likely something that needs to be released or abandoned. So back to Saros cycle 128 that began in 1304. These are the events that occurred. So England was taking siege over the last Scottish castle that was standing, and that led the Scottish to go ahead and surrender and wave their white flag and submit to English rule. Also, Pope Benedict XI died actually from eating poisonous figs. So he was poisoned and ended up dying. Then we also had another notable death. The seventh ruler of the Mongol Empire died, as well as the Emperor of Japan. All died in the year 1304. There was also a massive flood that affected the Baltic Sea due to a storm surge, which we've already seen this year. That's already occurred several times in several different areas this year. And that particular flood killed over 200 people. And so we may see similar themes, and we've already seen some similar themes occur as well. All right, so here's where I go into a little bit more about eclipses. And so eclipses will accelerate timelines, and this is due to, okay, we need to release. I'm going to reveal to you, the moon says, I'm going to reveal to you what needs to be released. We're going to release it. And then that's going to accelerate this timeline and get us really right back on the timeline that we need to be on. It's a reevaluation and putting the pieces back to where they need to be. So within that mix, what we're doing is we're clearing karmic debris. And this is where I said the word eclipse in Greek literally is translated to abandonment. So it refers to the celestial bodies, the sun and the moon, abandoning their usual place in the sky. Symbolically, it means to abandon or release karmic debris that is illuminated during this time. So, of course, because of all this, these eclipses are realigning us with our higher purpose and direction in life. So, themes around collective awakening, karmic clearing, liberation, community, new technology due to this eclipse being in Aquarius, radical truth, new inventions and discoveries. And we've already had some of that already this year as well, new discoveries for sure. And what once was hidden comes to light, of course. All right. So Venus also enters Leo on the same day as the eclipse. So when Venus is in Leo, our relationships and desires become more passionate. There's this desire to express that passion creatively. Heart-centered, authentic expression and beauty are also some of the other themes that may occur for some of us. New hobbies might begin. Reigniting flames in our intimate relationships can begin anew. And the thing to watch out for with Venus and Leo is to watch out for egoic thoughts that might affect your relationships or your expressions. And unnecessary drama, of course. All right. One thing I do want to say about right here, we can see that on the September 7th, the day of the total lunar eclipse, we also have the Sun and Mercury conjunct the South Node. What's interesting about this and it being a total lunar eclipse is that the South Node represents our collective past karma. If this is collective energy that we're talking about, and so collective past karma, and so that may be coming up. And that's coming up to be cleared so that we can move forward a little bit. And with Pluto being retrograde in Capricorn, and already there's themes of unearthing shadows within our government structures and leadership structures and who are supposed to guide us. And so really now this eclipse is probably going to bring up stuff from the past, maybe and likely around those issues that we really need to clear, adjust, release in some type of way so that we can move forward. Okay, so the space weather in the Schumann hasn't been as high as the last couple of weeks, but this very last week we had a couple of days that this Schumann was down, so we couldn't see, well, the Russian one was down. Cumiana was still working. So towards the middle and the end of the week, we had a timeline jump, and that is shown right here with this black streak. Black streaks in the Schumann are known as timeline jumps or gaps in data. And then I also circled this white that you can see here. White spikes in the Russian Schumann. The Cumiana and the Russian Schumann have different colors that actually mean different things. I've learned over time. So on this Russian one here, the white light is indicating either from lightning or from solar flare. We had small solar flares last week that might have led to this spike. And of course, this gap, this is the gap in information. Usually it would be black or something like that, but it's like they've just continued it. And so anyway, this white light spike can indicate DNA upgrades, which is why we feel so off, and it's what gives us these symptoms is our body is simultaneously trying to release what isn't serving us. Likely, I have a theory that while the sun, if it was a solar flare and the sun is in Leo, likely we're releasing things around our self-confidence, around our authentic expression and things like that. And simultaneously, we're receiving DNA upgrades to help us with that as well. And then over here, we can see these really big red spikes within the Cumiana Schumann station at the end of the week. So that just depicts higher energy. All right, so weekly summary. This week is a big week with us entering eclipse season and beginning it with a powerful total lunar eclipse in Aquarius, the sign of unity, innovation, and freedom. We may witness or experience new inventions, new technology, new communities being created. unexpected and potential shockwaves of change, sudden insights. Those insights may have something to do with, of course, what we're supposed to be clearing collectively and individually. And they likely have something to do with how we behaved in the past as a collective whole, and how we can probably adjust that, release what we need to release, and move forward in a better, positive direction for everyone involved. That's the goal. And so we also have a stellium in Leo that's created by the Sun, Mercury, and Venus towards the end of the week, and the South Node that we talked about. So Leo themes happen on a very conscious level. The Sun, Mercury are especially conscious, and Venus is in between. And so we're on this conscious level within our thinking, communication, desires, life force, energetic expression we're all doing that in a very Leo way. So themes of the collective also from the past, of course, rise up to be illuminated, explored, and released this full moon eclipse. Waves of solar flares and CMEs are reflected on the Schumann resonance, creating high energetic tides that we need to surf. And it's created purposely for releasing what is no longer useful, while we also receive DNA upgrades as well. All right. And if you would like your natal chart done in true sidereal and see how that fits for you, you can go to my website at realskyrevelations.com. I also offer progressions, transits, and you can get this done on your solar return on your birthday, and you could have it done for an entire year. I do that. I do tarot readings, consults. If you're not sure, if you don't want to necessarily book a natal chart reading, you just have maybe an area of life, whether it be work, home, or relationships, we can look at those houses in your astrology chart and go from there. And so you can sign up for a consult if you want something like that. And pretty soon I will be adding family synastry charts as well. And so if there's something that you would like to look at as far as synastry goes, we would, and how you compare to a relationship with someone else, we can look at that too. All right. Thank you all, and blessings for a very illuminating week ahead.